Today we're going to look at the concept of iteration, which simply means how to repeat things. And we're going to start with the simplest form of iteration, which is the while loop. So today we're going to repeat some code using the while loop. We're going to apply that concept to solving some very simple problems. So a while loop looks very much like the if statements that we've already used, except instead of just happening once, the code happens, it keeps happening while this condition is true. So if the condition is true, it runs, and it runs again and again and again until the condition becomes not true. So something in this loop, something that happens during the execution, during the running of this code, needs to change something about this condition so that the loop can eventually end. We don't want what's called an endless loop that never stops. So the condition needs to change at some point, or rather the values that are used in the condition need to change. Here's an example. So we set up a counter. We set the value of this counter variable to 0, so we're starting at the bottom. In computer science, we always count from 0 unless we've got a good reason not to. So we have our condition between these two brackets. So while this counter variable is less than 10, we print it out. Now, if we just had that without the line underneath, without this counter plus plus line, that would just print 0 forever. It would go round and round and round and round, printing 0. However, we change the value of counter. Now, this plus plus just adds 1 to the counter variable. So it's called an increment. So counter plus plus adds 1 to counter. So the first time this loop runs, counter is 0. We check, is counter less than 10? Yes, it is, because 0 is less than 10. So we print counter. And then we add 1. Becomes 1. 1 is less than 10, we print it again, and so on until we get to 9. 9 is less than 10, counter is printed out, counter is incremented, counter becomes 10, we go around again, we test, is counter less than 10? Well, no, it's 10 now, so we don't run this code anymore, and we go down here to that point. So if there was more code after that, that's what we would run. As it is, it will just print out the body in HTML for the browser to see. So if you've got ifs working, you should be able to get a simple while loop working. So I've given you on Moodle, I've given you a simple while file to work with, which is this one. You need to download it from Moodle, upload it to the college web server, and make sure that it does what it's supposed to. Then figure out how to change it so that it doesn't print 0 to 9, it prints 1 to 12. This is the first stage of setting ourselves up to print a times table, because they're normally done up to 12. Then change it so that instead of printing 1 to 12, it prints the 3 times table. So think about the relationship between the numbers 1 to 12 and the 3 times table, and what you're going to have to do to work that out. Then you're going to need to calculate a sum, a subtotal as you're going along. So we want the sum of the numbers 1 to 10. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, and so on. Okay, if you get that done, there's a more extended task called the King's Rice, which you will want to come and ask about if you don't understand. It's a very simple repeating pattern algorithm, but you might want to sketch it out with a flow diagram first.